Okay, coconuts, we are back following the Quit Your Job episode. Yeah, I think a lot of people are exploring geo arbitrage or remote working. Geo arbitrage, we can expand a little bit on that later. It's a very simple concept and you can read up about it. But I think remote working is a central of discussion in the current world. Like even Singapore is talking about it, the government's talking about it, and a lot of businesses are looking at that, right? So a lot of these big businesses have already led the world and trying to establish a huge remote working team. And even for TFC, we have a remote team. We have different process in different places. All that is great, right? So going forward, I think a lot of people will do remote work, and a lot of people will do this thing called geo arbitrage. And I want to spend some time to share a little bit more today here. Of course, this I'm testing this topic. So if you love this topic, there's a lot more to talk about this. So join our Telegram group and let me know, right? If you let me know that you want to hear more about this, there's actually a lot of tips and tricks around. And yeah, I could give you more content. So take this as an introduction, right? So welcome back. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to another day with the Financial Coconut. In our podcast, we'll be debunking financial myths, discovering best financial practices, and discussing financial strategies that fit our unique life. You get it. Ultimately, empowering us to create a life we love while managing our finances well. So today, we're going to spend some time to expand on this idea called geo arbitrage and talk a little bit more about remote working. So I know this is the talk of the town. A lot of people are talking about it, especially amongst the millennials, the Gen Z, younger people, where we don't really have our roots down yet, right? In Singapore or wherever you're listening in from, right? So if you have not bought a house, you have not set up a family, you're still exploring, you're trying different career, you have not even decided that, okay, I'm going to do this as a career, then yeah, I think that is the beauty of remote working in itself as an idea, right? Because there's so many optionalities, so many things that you can try, and so many things you can do. It's always nice to live in another country, just be honest, right? It's always nice to try living elsewhere and just kind of experience a different facet, a different way of life, so that you can re-evaluate where you are and also finally decide where you want to set root. I think that is very important, right? Because I always tell people about the Ramen Theory. I'm sure you guys have already heard about it before. So the Ramen Theory is this idea where if you only have one bowl of ramen, you will never know how well it tastes or how bad it tastes. It is just what it is, right? It is a bowl of ramen. But once you have all these better ramen shops that come in to Singapore, and then you taste it, and then you be like, oh my god. With more and more options that come in, you try all these different things. Then you can start to compare. You have basis for comparison. It at least takes two to start to compare, right? So once you have tried living in multiple countries, you try living in different places, trying different jobs, you will have a basis to compare. Okay, so is this the kind of place that I want to live? What do I actually appreciate about Singapore? What do I actually appreciate about, let's say, Vietnam, or what about Portugal, right? What about these different places that ultimately make me decide that, okay, I'm gonna temporarily set my roots here, or even permanently set my roots here, right? So I think that is the choice process and the comparison process that a lot of us will need to engage in, and I think a lot of us are open to engaging it these days, right? It's no longer just study hard, work until you die, and then just stay in Singapore. So times have changed. So let's get the first word out of the discussion, geo arbitrage. Essentially, arbitrage is when there's a price difference, right? And then you try to leverage on this price difference. So you buy low from one place and then you sell higher on the other place. About the same thing, that is essentially the stereotypical idea of arbitrage. So for geo arbitrage, right, geography arbitrage, essentially what it's trying to say is you try to make money in the richer places. Like let's say for Singaporeans, you want to make Sing dollar, but you maybe live in Vietnam, something like that. So that is the arbitrage, right? So you make top dollar from some of the bigger cities, and then you go and live in, let's say, the suburban areas or smaller cities where cost of living is much lower, and you can get the higher quality of life, and you'll be surprised you may even end up saving more money. All right, so that is the central idea of geo arbitrage, and a lot of people are thinking about it, which is why it's centered around this remote working concept, where you no longer need to be physically at one place, and you can take a job from a Singaporean company and be paid like a Singaporean but live somewhere else, right? So I think that is the beauty of remote working, and that's essentially the Goldilocks situation. Everyone wants to be like that, making the top dollar but living in the more suburban part of town. So there are many things to understand when you're trying to do this, whether is it from taxation or was it insurance or whether how do you know which city to choose, what kind of job prospects are more hot in the gig economy and all that. We can talk all about that in time to come. Let me know in particular what you want to talk about. But today I'm going to just give you 3 big pointers as the overarch of remote working and geo arbitrage. And this whole Goldilocks situation where you want to keep your Singaporean job but work elsewhere and live elsewhere, right? So I think that is the Goldilocks that we are aiming for, right? So based on that, I think there are 3 things that we really need to do. The first thing is, of course, to build trust with your team and your management. What does that mean? I know a lot of people say build trust, build trust. I think the focus in Singapore is that we are transiting from a situation where it was input focus, where people come to the office, stay until very late. They learn the Japanese style, right? And also wherever style they come from, where you stand until very late, you cannot leave earlier than your boss and all that jazz. Come on, those are passé already. I remember in the early days of, remote working at home, right? Work from home. Okay, I remember the early days of work from home. There were companies that were releasing softwares to track whether their employees were working or not, right? Or is my employee napping or what have you? I mean, that is it's very indicative. I'm not here to say whether it's good or bad. I'm saying it's very indicative of the psyche of management and the style of corporate management still in Singapore, still very prevalent. I know the younger companies, a lot of my friends, when they run companies, it's like, yeah, you want to take off, you take off. You want to heal, you heal. You want to go and do that self-admin time, you go and do self-admin time. Whatever you have, right? But that is still the minority. For most of the companies, they are slowly getting to it and slowly recognizing that it is about output. So when I say building trust with your team and management is to be very clear about output. You want to shift their psyche away from like, you need to turn up for work, you need to like send text message, you need to, all the input focus kind of things, and focus on the output. Have you completed your work? Is your work high quality? Have you like closed more sales? Have you opened more leads? Have you, complete tasks on hand? Have you improved certain things which is your focus, right? So you want people that is more output focused, and you want to build that trust with your team and management so that they know you are output focused. You will just do the output stuff. And this is a little bit of boundary drawing. Because like I said, a lot of older management, they still have this old idea of like, you need to come to office, you need to work, you need to clock in the hours and all that. And they believe that you just sit down there in front of the computer, ideas will come out, okay? It does not work that way. If you got no idea, right, just go for a run, go to gym, go for spa, go for swim, whatever. Go to something else that will relieve your brains and you'll get more creative. This is my core belief, okay? But all that being said, it is hard to build that trust with the management, to draw boundaries and to make sure that they are focused on your output. So it will not be an easy discussion. Say, you just go in and say, hey, from now on, right, you guys just need to be focused on output lah. Huh? So don't track my input time. But eventually, you'll need to be able to do that, right? So I think one of the lower hanging fruits that you can do is to make sure that your company does not send you text messages to your private number. I think this is extremely important. I hate it when people send me work stuff on my WhatsApp, on my private channel, because those are my social channels. I only keep that for my friends and family and people that want to talk to me. And I hate it when I get a message that says, it's like work stuff. No, like it hurts your work life. I think it hurts both your work and life because now random WhatsApp messages could be work. And then now you'll be like, so should I reply or not, right? Because it's like my own time. So I think that is the first thing that you can do. The first thing that you should try to negotiate, not you should try. First thing you should negotiate with your management and also with a form of boundary drawing so that you test whether they can and you also try to usher and push them towards that direction. Right? So I think the script is, by the way, guys, I am trying this whole like work-life balance situation and I want to be able to have some sort of segregation between my work and my life so that I can do better in life and also expand that into work. So with that, right, I hope that in the future, you guys do not text me for work stuff, right? Everything we can talk through email or we can talk through our work platform, let's say Slack, not sponsored. But yeah, I think this is the script to start with. Of course, over time, we can learn how to do this better and I'll try to get more guests come on to talk about how to negotiate with management, negotiate with HR and all that. But this is the lowest hanging fruit. If your boss cannot even handle that, we're going to separate work and life communication, then yeah, maybe you need to change a company to fulfill your remote working dream. But I think this is the base. You try to draw the boundaries and divert the attention towards output, right? So only when you can divert the attention towards output can your company become more comfortable with you living elsewhere and just be on your own, because you will get the work done and everyone will change the communication pattern, right? So it is not an individual effort, but I would say that if you want to keep your work and go into a remote working geo arbitrage situation, then you have to focus on output and build that trust with the team. The basis of trust, let me just add a little bit. The basis on trust is repetition. So if every time someone do something is the same standard, then you know that you can trust this person. Okay, so it's like if every time someone does something and they get angry, right, you also can trust that this person will be angry at the same thing. So this is the whole idea of trust, not some arbitrary like feel kind of thing. It's about repetition. How consistent is it? If every time someone says something and it's zun, it's accurate, then you know, okay, this person is pretty accurate with what they do. You can trust their word. So yes, repetition is the basis of trust. You want to always be on time, always hand in high quality work, always meet deadlines. So after a while, you become that guy, very trustworthy. Whatever you do, you also can. So when you're in such a situation, you have a lot of negotiating power about working remotely, because people don't need to micromanage. It becomes stupid for them to micromanage you, right? It becomes weird, it becomes awkward, right? So what I always do these days, let me just give you guys a little bit of a tip and a trick, right? Is when someone try to chase me for work, right? Because I always get chased for work, like, okay, honestly. And sometimes I feel bad that people keep chasing me for work, but there are some boundaries that I draw. Okay, so that's a story for another day. But when people chase me for work, I actually thank them. So my reply is, thank you for being on top of this task. Or thank you, and I appreciate that you're putting your bandwidth on overseeing this task. Where am I now? Right. So firstly, you de-escalate the situation, right? You no longer make it like they trying to fight you, you're trying to fight them. Everybody is on the same team. Actually, everybody just want the work done, right? But when people come here and check on you, I know sometimes the tension gets a little bit high. People don't really like it. But I have come to take it as quite good, right? They are using their bandwidth to keep me accountable. So why not, right? But yes. So if my sponsors listening, I know a lot of you guys listen. Don't mind me, okay? Because to me, I really see it this way, although I now tell you how I see it, right? So yes, when I thank them, they are using their bandwidth to keep me accountable. At the same time, we de-escalate the situation and everybody becomes like, oh yeah, we're on the same team. We're just trying to get this thing going, right? So this builds that trust, builds that comfort, builds that kind of synergy with work also. So to me, that is all part of building trust with your team and on your management. And this is a great basis to try to negotiate for a remote working arrangement, right? Output focus. Which brings me to point number 2. Okay, point number 2 is that you should sell your skill set at a discount to a bunch of buyers. Okay, so this is something that we definitely can expand on, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this after a word from our sponsor. Okay, so yes, I think in Singapore, a lot of people have the salaryman situation, right? Where you're working for one company and you just kind of do it, right? All the perks and the salary, everything is based on this one company. Of course, I am checking my privilege here. I know that not all jobs can be, remote, and not all jobs can just just go and just do something else. Like if let's say you're a chef, how to remote chef? Weird, right? Or like if you're a mechanic, you're a technician, you're doing very skilled labor, how do you like remote work? Anyway, just saying, in Australia, they pay very high for chefs, and they're also paying very high for all your professional work of carpentry, laying bricks and a lot of those things. Actually, a lot of other countries, they are paying a premium for skilled labor like that. So it's also a way to go about remote working, not in the sense that you work digitally, but in the sense that you can shift your work elsewhere and try a different way of life, right? So, okay, maybe not remote working, more like work overseas. So I have a good friend that works overseas like that, and she's been doing great. She's grown so much. So yeah, maybe for all you people listening in and you're in technical work, then it's definitely something to explore. As for everyone else that is more on the management level, where you can actually manage remotely, or whether you are in the whole digital economy where you can kind of be out there and you have that luxury to really explore remote, I think one of the main things that we need to move away from is that one salary idea where you only take money from one salary. And I know a lot of people will be like, I start a side hustle, I start a side business, a side e-commerce kind of thing. I'm like, wow, it's very hard. Okay, those things are hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but really, how many people can start a successful side hustle? It's not that easy. There's a lot more bandwidth, a whole different skill set to go about it. But the easy, low hanging fruit is to repurpose your skill set and sell it to another person. So sell it to another buyer essentially. So you have this one main company that buys your skill sets, but at the same time, you can sell the same skill set to many other companies. Right? I think this is the value in it. And I know a lot of creatives, they actually do that. So all your designers, your producers, a lot of them actually have that in their contract to allow them space. That means contractual agreement says that I can actually do side gigs. I can do gigs out of the full-time work. And I think going forward, more and more of such work will happen. And I think for a lot of you that are early days exploring remote work, you should do that, right? It's actually a much safer financial situation where you have multiple buyers. So, okay, one thing to note is I did say that you got to sell it at a discount, right? Okay, why? Why? I'm speaking to Singaporeans here, and I have to tell you guys, honestly, we are paid a premium. Okay, I'm not saying like, oh, because of productivity or blah, 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 none of those rubbish, okay? I'm just on the basis that as a company, when I hire people or, my friends hire people, we all know that Singaporeans are more expensive than other people, but in a full-time job setting, a lot of things are packaged together, right? So when it's packaged together and all that jazz, it's fine. Or at least there's some sort of reason why we do certain things, which is why when you put yourself out in the skills marketplace, when you are just doing a small little part, or let's say you're only doing like video editing, sound editing, or you're only doing some sort of research paper and all that. Okay, research papers, the market rate is quite good. We did a discussion with Ravenry, right? So you can check out under Chills, Ravenry, Ricky Willianto. He came on the show to talk a little bit about that. But the idea here is if you start to commoditize your skill set, that means you go on the big web of digital remote gig work, right? Then a lot of people are only buying a small thing. They only want you to edit something. They want you to do some sort of writing or some sort of transcribing or some sort of translation, some small little job. It's very hard to charge a premium because the market has a certain rate. So let's be realistic, okay? When we go onto this kind of platforms. But it's definitely great to have multiple sources of income that way. And it gives you optionality, right? So that is my view. Okay, multiple sources of income, I also got a lot of things to say, but another time. So which brings me to point number 3, and to me, probably the most important point, is that try to live in a place with strong agricultural ecosystem. Okay, why important? So I know a lot of people in Geo Arbitrage, of course, you need to choose where to stay, right? So first 2 points we talk a little bit about work, and now I want to talk a little bit about stay. So of course there are many other factors you should look at, whether is it their tax or whether is it the visa friendliness, and whether you can do visa runs. I know a lot of these words may be a little bit more foreign, and I will do another episode about this. Deciding where to stay in a remote working situation, some of the factors to look at. But on a very high level, I personally like to stay in places with a strong agricultural ecosystem, which means the country grows its own stuff and grows it very well. So like Vietnam, it's a great place. Malaysia has a lot of good produce also. Of course, where I am now in Georgia, they have a lot of great produce also. So like 1 kilo of grapes here, right? Okay, let me just give you some context. 1 kg of grapes here in Tbilisi, Georgia, right? In the heart of the city center is $1 Sing. Okay, 1 kg of peaches is like $1 Sing also. I think apples is maybe 80 cents Sing, right? So if you live in areas where they grow their own things, it tends to be very cheap, tends to be very affordable, right? Whatever that they grow. But of course, if the currency is low, when they imports become very expensive. 1 can of luncheon meat here in Tbilisi is $10. Huh? Okay, $10 luncheon meat. Luckily, I did bring some. But the idea is that I personally like to choose places with strong agriculture. So then you got very nice produce for very, very cheap price. Of course, some people will say, oh, what about Japan? Japan is very expensive. But okay, Japan has a nationalized or somewhat nationalized agricultural ecosystem where we can talk about it another time, which is why their produce are very expensive. But in many other parts of the world, whether is it, Vietnam, Malaysia, which I think Singaporeans should try. Okay, Vietnam, Malaysia are my two top picks in Southeast Asia that you should try to do remote work and live in. Of course, in Tbilisi, or is it in Portugal, some of these other places in the European regions, they all have very strong agricultural ecosystem, right? So food prices will be much lower. Of course, rent is always relative to where you want to live. If you live in the heart of the city, honestly, it's pretty much the same lah. Okay, I would say it's cheaper for sure if you compare country to country. You cannot compare like New York to Kuala Lumpur, right? It does not work that way. But the closer you are to the city center, prices tend to be very high. And in a remote working situation, you don't really need to be in the city center, which is why I said that I will give you more factors next time when we talk a little bit more about this. But yes, food. I always think food is very important, and ingredients are always great. So yeah, try to live in a place with a strong agricultural ecosystem, right? Life will be great, food be cheap, and all these produce are so fresh. The grapes so nice, peaches so nice, and yeah, honestly, Singaporean ingredients not the best, really. I have to give it to you guys. We have a very strict agricultural policy, so a lot of the imports are very standard. We have a few standard suppliers, and that's why a lot of things start to taste the same, right? We can talk about this another time, but that is something that I will push for everybody. If you are exploring working remotely, try to go to a country with very serious agricultural ecosystem, and there'll be a lot of great produce. Of course, it will be seasonal, but it'll be awesome and fun and all that jazz, right? So with that, I think these are three big arc points that you should think about when you're starting to explore like geo arbitrage and remote working. How do you keep your job? How do you make sure that your finances are okay, and where to kind of look for? So these are three very high level points. And number one will be to make sure you build your trust with your current management and your team so that they can be more output focused, learn to draw boundaries. So then you can kind of really work remote lah, right? So it help them be comfortable with you, and also they need to be comfortable with this idea. So then you can be anywhere long, right? Number two is that you gotta try to sell your skill set at a discount to multiple people. Of course, I'm not saying everybody should do it. If you have very strong finances, you don't. But for a lot of people that are a bit younger, still want to accumulate your wealth, hey, why not, right? Sell your skill set to more people, gives you more choices and a wider income source. That'll be great. But of course, when on the big wide web of skills, right, on the gig economy, you usually have to sell at a discount relative to what Singaporeans are comfortable with, right? You need to recognize that when I hire a Singaporean to do full-time, there's a lot of extra things that are kind of packaged in it. When I just need a skill in particular, then I'm commoditizing that particular thing. Let's say editing photo, editing videos. This is a commodity. So you're competing with everybody else that can also edit photo, edit video, edit sound, right? So once something becomes commoditized, you have to be price competitive. This is something that is inevitable, and we can talk about it the next time. Number three is I personally love to live in a place where they have a strong agricultural ecosystem, because you get great produce at a very, very cheap price. I've named some of them. And I think, yeah, this major 3 points would be great for you to start entertaining the idea of remote working. And if you want more, come to a Telegram group, let me know. And then, yeah, we can talk more about it. I hope you learned something useful today. See ya! Hey, I hope you learned something useful today and truly appreciate that you took time off to better your life with the Financial Coconut. Knowledge is that much more powerful and interesting when shared, debated, and discussed. Join our community Telegram group, follow us on our socials, sign up for our weekly newsletter. We are doing a weekly newsletter reboot. We're going to have a lot of information within the newsletter. Everything is in the description below. And if you love us and want to help us grow, definitely share the podcast with your friends and on your socials. Also, if you have any interesting thoughts you want to share, or you know someone that we would like to hear from, reach out to us through hello@thefinancialcoconut.com. With that, have a great day ahead, stay tuned next week, and always remember, personal finance can be chill, clear, and sustainable for all. Okay, so yeah, today clearly you can tell I'm trying a new topic. It is a fast-growing new topic in the sense that more and more people are entertaining it. So I believe a lot of us are thinking about it, and I want to talk about it because I think we cannot lie to ourselves that Singapore it's pretty pricey, right, relative to many other parts of the world. And while a lot of us stay here so that we can, get good pay and all that jazz, which is not bad really. There are many other factors that people are entertaining these days about work and life, and that's why people want to do remote. There are a lot of good factors about it, but there are also other things that you need to consider, right? So these are just 3 points to kind of kickstart the conversation. And as we go along, I will build more episodes around the idea of remote working and how to choose which city to stay, what are some things to look out for, and all that jazz going forward for you guys. Yeah. So next week, I'm going to talk a little bit more about escaping the rat race, right? So escaping the rat race is very sexy as an idea, right? But I'm going to share with you the phases that you will go through as you kind of go through this process of quote unquote escaping the rat race, right? There are many things to entertain in this thing. And I just want to kind of throw my thoughts in the fire, in a bonfire of randomness thoughts about escaping the rat race. I'm going to share with you a little bit more about the 3 phases that you will go through escaping the rat race. Take care.